Pokemon Company International has officially released just about every single card in the upcoming Scarlet and Violet expansion set, Surging Sparks, which is set to release on November 8th, 2024. We're going to be taking a look today at all of the artworks that have been revealed. That includes the illustration rares, the ultra rares, the special illustration rares. So get ready for this intensive deep dive into Pokemon Scarlet and Violet, Surging Sparks. If you're new here, my name is PokeFang. Welcome to Unpacked, where we unpack the latest news, updates, leaks, and rumors in the Pokemon TCG collecting hobby. This set is already shaping up to be possibly one of the top three sets that has come out in the Scarlet and Violet era, at least in my opinion. You guys let me know down in the comments what you think, starting with this Pikachu EX Special Illustration Rare with that Stellar Tera typing. Absolutely gorgeous artwork from Ghidorah, a very familiar name here in the TCG. I'll show you some examples, but this Pikachu just looks absolutely incredible. You can see that it's got that crystal sort of Tera texture all over it, which honestly could be distracting in a lot of other artworks. In this one, I think it actually blends in really nicely and actually adds to the shimmering nature of the card overall. A lot of people don't like those crowns that the Tera type Pokemon are wearing in the Scarlet and Violet era, and I will say that in this one, it's very inoffensive. Stellar Tera typing, I think, is probably one of the best looking Tera types that there actually is. Now, with this being a Pikachu, I will say that there's probably a pretty good chance that this will be a popular chase card. And if the name Ghidorah sounds familiar to you, it's probably because you've seen their cards all over the place. More recently, we've got the Hisuian Growlithe and the Perrin artworks that were in, I believe that was Twilight Masquerade. Ghidorah is really fantastic at capturing that sort of playfulness of the partner Pokemon. And I think you could see that in the Pikachu here. And I almost feel like this is the POV of the trainer themselves, with Pikachu sort of looking back up at them. We've been talking about this set having a Stellar Tera type Pikachu in it for months now, and it's finally here. And in all honesty, it looks fantastic. I suspect that a lot of people will also be really interested in this Milotic EX SIR, which looks absolutely gorgeous. I love a good water Pokemon artwork. For whatever reason, they just hit different. I like that the water is a little bit of a different coloring here. It's more of a lake or a pond as opposed to that blue ocean water that we're used to seeing in a lot of water type Pokemon artwork. You can also see that there's some nice little plant life down here. I think these plants and this water here actually signify that this artwork here does tie into the Phoebus artwork that is actually in the art rares in this set, or the illustration rares rather. I love how it's sort of breaching the surface here, and all the splashing is creating these little specular highlights and things. And this artist hasn't done actually a ton of cards in the TCG. One of the most notable ones would be the Gardevoir EX from, I believe that's Paldean Fates, potentially. Twilight Masquerade, that Leafeon, Shrouded Fable, the Sylveon, and I believe that Stellar Crown is the Jirachi. Moving on now to the Latias EX SIR by Okacheke. We did talk about this artwork at length in previous episodes of Unpacked, so if you want to go back and check those out, you are more than welcome to. But now we actually get to see it in English. This artwork here is a panoramic image, so you're getting to see the Latias EX in the special illustration rare, and the Latios that is in the illustration rares in the set goes together with the card to create a wide panoramic view of the two Pokemon. So it seems like this golden hour sunset mood here is prevalent across Surging Sparks. We also have the Archaludon EX now in English. I do think it looks fantastic, but to me, it does look a little bit like a regular ultra rare. There's not much going on in terms of the environment of the artwork. It's just sort of floating there in space with some designs in the background. Maybe it'll look a lot different in person and really stand out as an SIR, but for me, this is probably the weakest of the special illustration rares that we're getting in this set. Then we have another one from Paradise Dragona. This is the Alolan Executor EX, the special illustration rare Stellar Tera typing. I think this might be the first Stellar Tera type SIR we're looking at in this video. So if you haven't seen previous episodes, then you may not know, but the SIRs that have the Stellar Tera typing get that rainbow border on them as opposed to just the silver or full bleed of the SIRs for the other cards. I did talk a little bit about this one in previous episodes, but I do like the fact that Yuriko Akase, the artist for this card, is also doing the artwork for the Execute, so the full evolution line of the Executor in the same set. I love when they do that. It makes my OCD feel good. Now, one of the SIRs that we have actually not seen an English translated version of just yet is the Hydreigon EX, at least at the time of recording this. Maybe it's out by the time you're watching it, but the Hydreigon EX special art rare, again, with that rainbow border on there, I honestly think it looks really incredible. It's sort of floating out in the cosmos. You could see all those little sparkles and twirls, and like there's a dimensional portal behind it. It somehow manages to balance a really, really complex environment with a very simplified focus on the Pokemon themselves. Again, the Stellar Tera typing sort of halo that it has on it is very, very inoffensive in this artwork as well. This will without a doubt be one of my top chase cards when we open up Surging Sparks here on the channel shortly after November 8th when it is actually released. This card is really, really mind-blowing, and we should expect nothing less from the absolute legend that is Akira Agawa. And if you just got back into collecting these last few years, you probably recognize some of these artworks here with the Okie Dokie Illustration Rare from Shrouded Fable, which is one of my favorite illustration rares. I actually have not been able to pull that one. I wanted to also feature the Dondozo from Scarlet and Violet base set. I feel like this artwork is so incredibly slept on. It is absolutely fantastic. If you have one, take a close look at it. It's a really, really beautiful artwork. I mean, even looking at it right here, I actually had a lot of fun doing the Dondozo Tatsugiri Titan mission in Pokemon Scarlet. Of course, you have one of the absolute goats of the Crown Zenith set, the Giratina V-Star. I think it's still the highest value card in the set. I absolutely love that one. I always call it the Ghostbusters 2 River of Slime Giratina.
It's a river of slime! There's gotta be 25,000 gallons of it!
Wavy abstract swirls underneath it, which just reminds me of that scene in the sewers. In one of my favorite sets, Fusion Strike, I had to feature the Mew VMAX alternate art, back when we had alternate arts, not special illustration rares, also from Akira Agawa. Incredible artist with some really incredible cards. And honestly, this image here of the Japanese Hydreigon EX is a little bit lower resolution. I actually sharpened it up a little bit, so I am curious to see how good this thing actually looks once they give us the English translated version with that nice high resolution image on it. Akira Agawa is also responsible for two of the best Charizard artworks in the Scarlet and Violet era, those being the Obsidian Flames Charizard EX SIR, and of course the Paldean Fates shiny Dark type Terraform Special Illustration Rare Charizard EX. Again, absolute legendary artist in the Pokemon TCG. There's people who literally dedicate binders just to Akira Agawa's artworks. So as far as the special illustration rare Pokemon in the set, we have the Milotic EX, the Pikachu EX, the Hydreigon EX, which has not been officially announced in English as of recording this, the Latias EX, Archaludon, and Alolan Executor EX. The top row here is from Supercharged Breaker. In the bottom row here is from Paradise Dragona, which is the other set that is making up half of Surging Sparks. Now moving on to the special illustration rare trainers, we have the SIR for Drayton by artist Dom, or DOM. I don't know how to pronounce that name. Whenever it's all capitals, I'm never quite sure what to say, but DOM is the name there. Drayton specializes in the Dragon type Pokemon as a member of the Blueberry Academy Elite Four in the Indigo Disc expansion for Pokemon Scarlet and Violet. I did feature this card in the past episode, so I'll move on from it here to one that we actually have not seen until this video right here, and that is going to be the Jasmine's Gaze, which I suspected that we were going to be getting in this set, and it turns out we were right. So we're getting this one from Supercharged Breaker. This is a special illustration rare from Fujimoto Gold. Now, while I do love this one's art style and all of the food and the lighting and everything, and the fact that it looks like it's at like almost one of those old school diners where you can sit sort of at the bar and eat. But I think it's worth mentioning that this is now like the 10th or something card that we've gotten in the Scarlet and Violet era where somebody is like shoving a sandwich in their face. I don't quite understand the whole sandwich thing with Scarlet and Violet. I honestly haven't made very many sandwiches in the game at all, but I think it's really interesting and funny, even to the point where they would feature a brand new artwork from a character who has been in the TCG for several generations, eating sandwiches as if they were from the Paldea region. Up next, we have a card that we actually did cover at length in another episode. This is a very cool card with a dual illustrator credit on it, two artists that have worked on the anime and game series Bang Dream Girls Band Party. I think that's what it's called. There's so many words involved in that. But we have the Lisia's Appeal SIR featuring her partner Pokemon Altaria there in the top left. I asked some people in the last video if they prefer this artwork over the ultra rare that's in the sets because they're very, very similar. But it does seem like a good amount of people are actually more interested in this specific special illustration rare. And honestly, having two illustrators work on a card for the first time in the TCG from an outside special IP, and I'd be very interested to see if they end up doing more artwork in the TCG or not. So let's move on now to the art rares. We have the Execute, which is a very cool hand-drawn style by Yuriko Okase, also the same artist that is doing the Alola Stolen Executor Special Illustration Rare that we mentioned earlier. And this Execute should actually be the first art rare in the art rares section of the actual set list. The rest of the art rares that I'm going to show you right now are actually in order, and then we'll talk about which ones are still actually missing. Moving on to the Vivillon Illustration Rare by Rend. This is one of my favorites in the set. It's similar to the Vibrava that we're going to look at later. Has that nice photography style that I'm a big fan of. This artist seems to be sort of specializing in that lately. Here's some of their other cards featuring the shiny Palmy from Paldean Fates, Zorua from Shrouded Fable, I believe, Cutiefly from Temporal Forces, and from Twilight Masquerade, the Chimecho. All of these cards have a very cool candid photography style that I really liked from that Perrin side quest in Pokemon Scarlet and Violet, and I was hoping they would keep doing more of these photography style artworks, and it looks like we did get a couple more of them in Surging Sparks. Absolutely beautiful. I love that the sunlight is sort of coming through the wings a little bit as they're semi-transparent. You can see the sort of the shadow of the overlap of the wings here, which tells us that some of the brightness right here is actually coming from just the light cutting through, and then that out of focus background there with a really sharp focus here on the subject in the little tree branch. It's going to be one of my favorites of the illustration rares in this set. We also have the Shiinotic from Metazo, which is very cool. Lots of little mushrooms and fungus all over the place. I'm not the biggest mushroom guy, but I do love this Pokemon's design, and I love that this artist seems to feature an area of brightness that draws your focus in towards the Pokemon in some of their other artworks. I think Metazo also did the Blitzel in, I think it was Paradox Rift, but their other artworks do show this very, very similar sort of composition style, using the contrast between the dark and the light to draw attention towards the Pokemon themselves. Honestly, this facial expression is kind of spooky too, which is appropriate for the season. Next, we have the Cast Form Sunny Form Illustration Rare by Narano, and I did talk about this one at length in a different episode. I'm so stoked about this artist. If you go to their website, you can see some of their artwork. It's really, really beautiful stuff. Lots of complexity, lots of texture, and lots of detail, and a very, very unique and playful art style that I've just absolutely fallen in love with. And I really hope we get more cards from them, because I think this is their first time actually designing a card for the Pokemon TCG. And I like that it actually features the other forms besides the Sunny Form, Cast Form. And then we have one of the most metal Pokemon cards I think I've ever seen in my life. By metal, I mean this type of metal, not actual metal typing, but this Cerulege Illustration Rare looks so awesome. There's something about it. It literally looks like it's in a graveyard or something. Kind of reminds me of like the Lafayette Cemetery when I went to New Orleans, one of the coolest places I've ever been. This art style, just honestly, like the colors and the art style and the composition and the contrast, it also looks weirdly regal as well. Like I feel like if this Cerulege lived in a giant mansion on top of a hill, that this artwork would be framed and sitting on top of its mantle in like the main study. Crazy to think that this is even a fire type. It feels like this should be a dark type Pokemon, because it's just so gothed out in this artwork and this card in general. Definitely going to be one of the top regular illustration rare chase cards for me as I'm opening up Surging Sparks in November. Up next, we have the Phoebus, which is, I mentioned this earlier in the video when we were looking at the Melodic EX Special Illustration Rare. This is the same artist, Corey Mori, and this one looks fantastic as well. I love that it's got that green foliage, underwater foliage here, and it's sort of looking up. Now, there's no like details over here to suggest that that Melodic is actually above here. So I would actually think that this is the pre-evolution of that exact same Pokemon. So that Melodic is actually breaching the water in the same exact little pond here that it was previously a Phoebus just looking up above the surface, wishing that it could actually breach that surface. Fantastic storytelling, and I love a good underwater shot. It's a perspective that we never really get to see in real life unless you're just like a scuba diver or a professional swimmer. Little microscopic critters that are actually catching the light, making all these little highlights sort of shimmer in the water. There's like this nice little bloom of light off of its face too, like it's just getting hit with some warmth. Then we have these adorable little goofy Spheals. Spheals? Is that the plural for Spheal, I guess? A very simple, flat, geometric art style that's very consistent with some of their other ones, which I know you'll recognize when I show you some examples of what they've done here. I almost feel like this feel right here is getting bounced off, not actually diving, just boom. There's also a really cute little photobomb action happening right here. Very playful, very cute, great artwork from Miki Kudo, who also did the Charmander, Charmeleon, and Charizard EX evolution line in Pokemon 151, which I know everybody loved. I was actually lucky enough to pull the Demigod pack from Pokemon 151 with all 3 of these cards inside of one pack, but you could see that same sort of flat geometric art style play out in these 3 artworks. Charmander looking up and the Charmeleon looking down, and then the Charizard taking off. We have another underwater card from Mitsuhiro Arita with this Bruxish. Bruxish is probably one of the hardest Pokemon names for me to say besides Galvantula, which I've actually gotten pretty good at saying correctly now. This artwork is also fantastic here. I mean, Mitsuhiro Arita needs no introduction. We're talking about one of the OGs when it comes to the Pokemon TCG artwork. I'm not the biggest fan of this Pokemon, especially this Pokemon's name, but I think he did a pretty great job with the artwork itself. Then we have this Titan illustration rare by Jerky. Love that there's some bonus Pokemon down here with these Wailmer. If this Titan jumps off this water, those Wailmers are going to get absolutely destroyed. I'm not the biggest fan of Jerky's artwork, but I can honestly say this is probably one of my favorites of the ones that I've seen so far. They're often very, very simple. But then we have the counterpart to the Latios EX Special Illustration Rare. This is the Latios IR by Okacheke, same artist who does the Latios EX. It would have to be. Both of these cards come together to create a giant panoramic mural of these 2 Pokemon flying over a coastal city at sunset. Like I said, sunset is definitely a theme in the artwork. I don't know if they were prompted for this or if it's just something that the artists themselves just sort of aligned on accidentally, but it's definitely in a lot of these artworks. I mean, it's even in this next card, the Mesprit IR, which has a totally different art style, but also features that sunset right there on that ridge of that mountain. This one is by Hayugo Nosuke, and I actually really like this one. I think it's interesting that the horizon line is also not level, because it almost feels like we're also floating up in the sky with this Pokemon. And I really like the light wrap happening right here, because this is technically in silhouette. We're looking at the shadow side of this Pokemon right here, but you can see all of the light from that sunset. And then we have this absolutely adorable Phanpy artwork from Saboteri, featuring this cute little Phanpy with its ears flapping right here, looking like Dumbo. And the environment actually reminds me a lot of Lion King, marching kind of like a bunch of elephants, which is what they're based off of, obviously. Great coloring on this one as well. I mean, technically, we should not be seeing so much color on this Phanpy compared to the rest of the environment. It should be sort of falling in line with that, but I like that they actually made it a little bit more vibrant. It draws attention to the fact that it's a lot more playful than everything else going on in the scene. Saboteri does fantastic work. I mean, we literally just got this Squirtle right here, which was really sought after card when it was in the Japanese special collection box, and we finally got it in Stellar Crown, and it's a really, really sought after artwork. I think this card is about $40 right now in that set, just as a regular illustration rare. And then the Terapagos EX, I think, is the most expensive card in Stellar Crown. And I love the dichotomy of how complex and mature the Terapagos EX artwork is compared to this Squirtle. Very, very playful and kiddish, as the Squirtle's like sort of spraying water at these Pidgey that are on the ledge over there. And the same goes for this Phanpy right here. It's cool to see artists who actually get the prompt and are able to match their art style to the mood of the artwork. And then we have the Vibrava that I know I've mentioned in other episodes, but I absolutely love this one. It's got that great portrait photography style that I mentioned earlier. This one's from Toriyufu, different artist than the one who did the Vivillon, but very similar in the art style itself. And I still can't believe that this is not a 3D render, because it's just so incredibly detailed. And the way that these feel 3D, because the shading and everything is just absolutely perfect. The way that the shadows from the leaves are cutting through. Then we have this Clobopus that I know that I've mentioned in the past. I really enjoy this one. It's by the artist Us G Men, or like I said, when it's all caps, it really throws me off. And if I'm remembering correctly, this is actually the same artist that gave us the quote-unquote Bubble Mew, the shiny Mew from Paldean Fates, which is like a really big chase card in that set. Also very similar art style, just hand-drawn, almost childlike sort of drawing. Quite the opposite of what we saw with the Vibrava. And then we also have this Alolan Dugtrio, which it really captures the character of the Alolan Dugtrio, which is just absolute absurdity. I actually know a lot of people that really despise Alolan Dugtrio because of the hair, but I honestly think that it's just absolutely hilarious. And the environment here here looks like it's taking after the Alola region itself, which is cool because we just had Worlds in Honolulu this year. Hawaii is very much the inspiration for the Alola region, so that is very fitting. Now, previously I had actually seen this card in, I believe it was in Chinese as a promo. And this is the original version, the promo version that I did not want to share just yet. And now we know we are actually getting it because we got it in English. And we have this really cool chromed out Skarmory right here with this impressionist style clouds here in the background that look really beautiful. I still don't understand how artists are so talented that they can actually recreate a chrome mirror reflection. I don't know, it just blows my mind. We have this hand-drawn style artwork of the Flapple Illustration Rare by Uninori, which looks fantastic. We also get the Appleton, which I absolutely love. This is an adorable artwork. Makes me want to go apple picking as the time of recording this. It is the middle of October. It's just about time to go apple picking and pumpkin picking. So I really enjoy this artwork, but it's also just seasonally very relevant. This one's from Minaminami Take. And then second to last illustration rare that we have in the set is the Kecleon illustration rare by Moriyu. You can see this art style in some of their other work, like the Lileep from Stellar Crown or the Inkay common from Shrouded Fable, almost children's picture book style artwork. And that same thing goes for this Kecleon. I love that sort of an I Spy with all these other different little cameos. Finally, we have the very Van Gogh-esque Braviary illustration rare by Gapao. I'm not sure how to say that name, but when I first saw the low-res versions of this Braviary, I wasn't sure what to think because the images were just really bad quality and they were very, very dark and you couldn't really see what was going on. But now that I actually see this thing in full color, in like full resolution, I actually really like it. I think this is a great one. It is very Van Gogh-esque. I don't know if that was intentional or not, but it definitely has that vibe. So of the 23 illustration rares that we are supposed to be getting in Surging Sparks, as per the Pokemon Center press release page, we do have 21 of them, I believe. We have the Execute, Vivillon, Shiinotic, Castform, I believe is card number 195. 196 is missing. We have Ceruledge at 197, so that's how we know. This can only be a Fire-type Pokemon because they do these in type order. So let me know down in the comments, guys, of the main set list, which Pokemon you think is actually going to be here. It will have to be a Fire type. Then we have the Phoebus, Spheal, Bruxish, Cetitan, which I believe is card number 201. Which means card number 202 would be right here, and we don't know what that is yet. We have the Latios at 203, and then we have one more missing card, so I was wrong. We actually have 20 of the art rares revealed so far. Since we know what the first illustration rare is going to be and the last illustration rare is going to be, we know there won't be any illustration rares after the Braviary, which then brings us to our ultra rare Pokemon, which, as we know, those are going to be based off of the Pokemon that got an EX card in the set. So between the Braviary at 214 and the Black Kyurem EX at 218, we have 3 unrevealed cards, which will more than likely be full arts of the Durant, the Scovillain, and the Melodic EXs. Then we have the Black Kyurem EX, Pikachu EX, the Latias EX, and the Palisand EX full art, which is also a Stellar Tera type. This one has not been revealed in English, but it has been revealed in Supercharged Breaker in Japanese. And we have the Stellar Tera type Flygon EX. We have not seen the full art for the Hydreigon EX, but that one's also going to be a Stellar Tera type with those rainbow borders. Then we have the Archaludon EX, which is not a Stellar Tera type. After Alolan Executor, we have 2 empty spots right here before the Cyclizar EX. And I'm just going to go ahead and speculate that that's going to be the Tatsugiri EX and the Slacking EX, as I believe those are the only 2 cards in between Alolan Executor and Cyclizar in the main set list that are native to this set. But after the Cyclizar EX, there's only one Pokemon in the set after that, and that's the Flamigo. And I included it here knowing that we're probably not going to get a full art of the Flamigo because it is a card that comes from the gym promos. It's not a card that is actually natively in this set. And the only trainer that's actually between the Cyclizar EX and the Serrano card would be the Clements Quick Wit. Could be the full art that we're going to get right there, the first full art supporter. Then we have the Serrano and the Drasna Ultra Rares. Then we have the Drayton and the Jasmine's Gaze also is getting a full art. And the Lisia's Appeal that I mentioned earlier, that is very close in its design to the special illustration rare of the Lisia's Appeal. Then we have a full art of the Surfer. Then we only have one card numerically still left unknown between the Surfer and the Melodic EX Special Illustration Rare, which only leaves room for either a full art supporter of Time, who was added to the set from, I believe, Gym promo, so it's very unlikely we'll see that. But I believe that's the only other supporter that could potentially go in that slot. So assuming maybe it isn't actually a supporter that's going to go there, then it would have to be a special illustration rare of either Durant or Scovillain. And if I had to choose between the two, I think I would like to see a special illustration rare of Scovillain. I think it's a really cool Pokemon design. But also, this is just speculation, and I'm sort of just spitballing right here. So let me know down in the comments if I'm crazy or if you have a different theory for what could go there in the set. Then we have a gap between the Alolan Executor EX special illustration rare and the Drayton special illustration rare. So we don't know what's going to go there, but I have a few different options based off of what's in the actual set. And then we have the Jasmine's Gaze special illustration rare, the Lisia's Appeal special illustration rare, and then we have the rest of the cards, because according to the Pokemon Company, Surging Sparks will have more than 250 cards total in Surging Sparks, with 11 special illustration rare Pokemon and supporters. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 special illustration rares. So there's only room for one more, and that would go either right here at number 247, or that would go over here, assuming we don't get a full art of Time, and we actually get a special illustration rare of Durant and Scovillain, which I think, to me, makes a little bit more sense. If we do end up getting a special illustration rare Pokemon in this empty spot right here, it will probably be a Tatsugiri, a Cyclizar, or a Slacking. Place your bets in the comments. Or if it's a trainer, then it could potentially be Clement's Quick Wit, a Drasna, or a Serrano, almost forgot his name, because these are the only trainers that come before Drayton, and then these are the only Pokemon that come after Alolan Executor EX in the set. So those are our options for what could potentially be the special illustration rare in this spot right here. And then after that, we should basically just have the gold cards, because there are going to be 6 hyper rare golds announced by Pokemon Company in Surging Sparks, and we've only seen the 3 that come out of Paradise Dragona. So an additional 3 cards would put us at 251, which is technically over 250 cards in the set. And I know Pokemon Company likes to do things like that and say over 250 when they actually mean 251. The timeline on this set is going to be as follows. September 13th, which has passed already, is Paradise Dragona's release date. So that set is already out, and I already have some of it right here ready to open up in the next video, so stick around for that. On October 18th, we will then be getting Supercharged Breaker. I'm going to try to get a couple boxes of Supercharged Breaker to open up with you guys here on the channel as well. If you're interested in buying any of the Japanese or English sets that I have mentioned in today's video, some of the resources that I buy my products from are XP Collect or XP Collect on TikTok. For Japanese products, I suggest PokeNE or Cali Poke House. These are actually not affiliates, and I don't make any money off of mentioning it. I just want to share with you guys where I buy my products in case you're looking for a reliable and trustworthy source. This is where I've been buying my products from for the past several years. If you made it this far in the video, I just want to say thank you so much. These videos take me hours to set up and plan and shoot and edit, so it would mean the world to me if you would just hit that like button on the way out. Subscribe if you want more future updates of Unpacked or unboxings of sets like Paradise Dragona or Surging Sparks. But I'll catch you in the next one, and as always, happy haunting, Fang Gang. Peace.